to TB was against zero. So we had a good plan to attack their zero. And then second half, they played a lot more just press man coverage and even looked to double certain guys. And with TB out, they went to double AJ. And, they had a good plan in the second half, and we got behind the chains early on first and second down. And we had a lot of third and 10, third and 11s to try and convert, which is hard versus any defense.
Do you feel like you saw –
You've been throwing the ball a lot to T. Higgins and CJ Uzama against Miami. Was that specifically a result of how they were going against AJ, or what are some of the reasons that those two guys have been your most consistent targets?
I think obviously TB's been playing really well all year, and so has T. And a lot of attention does get focused on AJ in certain situations, and I think it kind of just played out that way in the game, where a lot of the first progressions of the play went to TB or T, and with zero coverage, a lot of those things, the ball has to come out because they're bringing more than you can block. So I think a lot of times it just so happened that we only got to our first read to get the ball out versus some of that pressure.
Speaking of AJ, what can you do to get him more involved? He was only targeted one time last game.
Yeah, I think we've got a good plan this week. AJ is obviously still a great player, and we need to get him the ball, and that's a lot on me. There were a couple times last game where I should have gone to him and I didn't, and I think getting him going early and kind of this week especially, and then early in the game, I think we'll feed both our confidences, and then we'll go from there.
It seems like this year, whenever AJ does have a pretty good game, he does get going early. I mean, is that a point of emphasis that try to just kind of see if you can get his confidence and momentum rolling early, that maybe that you see that the effects of that as the game wears on?
I think it works that way with a lot of guys, not just AJ, but I think a lot of guys, when they can get touches early, get some catches early, get a feel for how they're playing it, get moving down the field. I think it feeds a lot of confidence into a lot of guys when that happens for them. And so obviously, I'd love to spread the ball around and get everyone early touches and get everyone going early. And, hopefully we can get that going this week.
Do you feel like you see in the field pretty well at this stage, Brent? From week 1 to week 2, do you feel like that part of it's gotten better and your progression in your reads is accelerated and all that stuff?
I think so. Obviously still things to work on. When I watched the tape from last week, definitely things that they showed during the game that I maybe hadn't seen on film or something, and just have to react during the game. And I can definitely get better in some areas like that. But I think week to week, I'm trying to continue to improve and get better in that area.
Can you describe Jonah Williams went on IR today? Can you describe just the value that he's brought to left tackle and what you've seen from him?
Yeah, obviously a great player. Pretty sure 2 years ago was a first rounder. Obviously a special talent. It hurts to lose anybody, especially a left tackle. But it's kind of been that way this year for us. It's a next man up mentality, and we'll obviously wish him the best and a speedy recovery. But it's going to have to be the next man up takes place.
You've played for a couple teams, a lot of different linemen. What makes him, a good left tackle to have protecting you out there?
I think he's very smart. I think he understands protections. He understands what he's doing when he's watching film, how guys are going to rush him, and I think he just has a great feel for that position, and obviously he's very talented on top of that. So I think that the combination of both those things make him pretty good.
You guys had run the ball pretty well the last couple, and then it kind of fell off last week. I mean, everyone knows that. I think they're ranked 32 against the run, Dallas. I mean, is that being emphasized more this week? Does that have to be emphasized more? I mean, what do you need to get out of your running game this week against them?
No, I think every week it's emphasized to get a run game going. It doesn't matter what the defense is that we're going against. I think to win in this league, you need a run game and the pass game to complement. So, each week I think we put together a great plan to get the run game going. And I think early in the game last week we had a few pretty good runs, some 9-10 yarders, and we just need to sustain that throughout the course of the whole game.
After a game where you get hit as much as you did last week, how big of a challenge is it to keep the clock from speeding up in your head? I have a lot of trust in our linemen, and I think playing football as long as I have, those things, to play quarterback, you have to have a short
short memory. And I think obviously in certain games the clock does speed up a little bit as you go through the game, and you know that okay, they're getting some good pressure, they got good players, and but I think going into each week, you still got to go through your reads. Sometimes you're quicker about it, just in terms of what you're seeing on defense. You can get through reads faster by what you see on the defense, but I think in terms of D-line pressure and all that usually doesn't cross my mind until it happens during the game.
So, Brandon, you said that you feel your body feels good. You don't have any residual bruising or anything like that you have to deal with that might limit you a little bit range of motion wise in practice or anything?
No, I'll be good to go.
Good.
Brandon, you had 3 starts with the Broncos. What do you remember in your progression from start to start as you get ready for your 3rd start as a Bengal, and how does it compare this time around?
I think I learned a lot from those first 3 starts last year. One about just the preparation and the mindset of going into each week, and there can't be any sort of let off. Doesn't matter the record, doesn't matter the team you're going against, and so I think I just learned a lot in terms of that aspect. And this week I've, in terms of preparation each week, tried to prepare the best that I can for each defense. And obviously every defense can be totally different than the one you just went through. So it's about learning from what you faced the week before, applying it to certain situations that you can apply it to versus the defense you're going against, and also being prepared for what the new defense is going to show you and where you're going to go with all your progressions.
2 more minutes with Brandon.
Did you ever bump into Andy Dalton along the way at any point? Did you ever watch any film of him, get any impression of him? Or
I've seen film of him, obviously. He's been around and been playing at a high level for a long time, and but no, I haven't had a chance to meet him or anything like that.
What's it like being, I guess, with this being Andy's return, his first game back? What's it like being the quarterback on the other side? I mean, does that what's the feeling going into that game? Does that change anything at all?
I don't think it changes much for me. Just because this is, new for me from this team and the team we're going against and all that. And so there's not really anything for me to prepare that way for. Obviously, Andy coming back he's going to want to win, just like every game. But, this one might just be a little bit more special for him. And so we'll have to prepare. I know our defense will be ready, and we'll be looking to not let that happen.
When you're preparing for these games, this is the 3rd opportunity with, limited snaps, obviously. Do you have to almost consider the defense may increase their pressure packages, blitz packages, and all that sort of thing? I mean, how much do you say, all right, what they did to this team is going to translate here, or how do you go about putting together in your mind what you're going to expect?
I think you go on what you see on tape. Obviously, there's a lot of teams that run similar systems to ours, and you can see how they played those teams. And I think you prepare for what you see, but you also make adjustments in game. And I think every defense will throw something at you that you hadn't seen before, that you're not ready for, and you make it out of the play, and you obviously try to succeed, but then you make adjustments for what they're doing. And those in-game adjustments are just as crucial as preparing during the week.
One last question.
How has that part of it gone? How have the in-game adjustments, the adjustments to adjustments, all that chess match part of it, how's that gone?
I think it's gone well, obviously in certain areas, and for obviously defenses do the same thing. They make in-game adjustments for what we're doing. So, like you said, it is kind of a chess match, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but it's about winning more than you lose, and obviously scoring more points than the other team. But we'll keep doing what we're doing, and I think second half adjustments, I think we've done a good job, but we have to be better. Obviously, it starts on first and second down and not getting behind the chains, which I think has been our biggest issue coming at halftime.
All right, Brandon, we'll let you go. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
We'll open it up for questions. Go ahead, guys.
Zach, what type of right knee injury was Jonah Williams diagnosed with?
Not as severe as it could be. It'll be a couple weeks. We'll put him on IR. Had this been earlier in the season, it would not have been a too long of a injury.
So he's not done for the season?
We only have 4 games left, so he's going on IR for 3. So it's hard to say right now, but he'd only be able to come back to the last game, if anything.
Mm-hmm. And also, Joe Mixon has been on IR since November 21st. Do you expect him to return at all at this point?
That's still a possibility. He won't be back this week, but that's still a possibility for the season.
So you don't anticipate Jonah's injury being something that's going to hurt his offseason in preparation for 2021?
No.
So does he need surgery?
No, it's just going to be a couple-week deal, and unfortunately, we only have a couple weeks left, so it remains to be seen if he'll be back for that last game. But in some sense, you were able to dodge a bullet there.
So now you're obviously in a little bit of a shuffle mode up front again. That seems to be a weekly situation for you, doesn't it?
That's the way it goes. Yep.
Would you give Hakeem a shot there again?
Yeah, Hakeem will get a look for us. We still have some things we're working through this week with the rest of the line, but Hakeem will get an opportunity to play this week.
Is Fred Johnson doing all right? He's been inactive. How's he doing?
Yeah, he's been fine. It's just tricky. You got 8 guys up. Typically for us, it's been a center, a guard, and a tackle. And Hakeem's been that tackle the last couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean that we've been disappointed with Fred. It's just the way that it's worked out. We've got a lot of linemen that have been on the active roster. And so each week you just got to make a difficult decision on those inactives.
What goes through your mind, Zach, when you think about Andy Dalton and Andy Dalton returning to Cincinnati to play football?
Yeah, just the tremendous person he is and how much he means to the city. All the things that he did for this organization and he and his family have done for this area. Just tremendous person. I've got a ton of respect for him. I really enjoyed working with him. In a sense, we were only together for a year. So there's a lot of players that me personally, I've been around for a year that I've coached against, or players, coaches, whatever it is. So that's not unique for me. It's probably a little bit more unique for just the fans of Cincinnati and a lot of the players that have been here for a while.
You hear guys say all the time when they go back to play a former team, it's just another game, and they try to downplay it. But with Andy and with Xavier Su'a-Filo, do you think that's bunk? I mean, do you think there's a little extra?
I was never good enough to be in that position to actually, go in a locker room and put on the pads and go play for a club and then have to play them. I've always thought that would be strange. But again, I can't speak for any personal experience on that one. I take that back. I transferred from Wake Forest to my second game in Nebraska. We played Wake Forest. That was a little unusual. But other than that, that's the closest I can get to it.
Is Darius Phillips on track to start on Sunday, and just how has he looked?
Yeah, Darius, he came back last week and then had an illness that was completely unrelated to his time on IR. And so, just the times we're in, we didn't travel him just because there was some unknown there. But he's back healthy now, so now he gets a full week of work, and we do expect him to play this weekend.
With respect to Andy's football IQ and being so smart, do you have to consider, particularly Lou defensively, changing some things that he might be aware of, that he might be able to pick up on? I mean, how much of that do you have to go through?
Yeah, those are always conversations we have when you got players that have awareness of your calls and your schemes. And, nowadays they mic up so many players. A lot of that stuff shows up in the TV copy. So you always have to be aware of what's out there, regardless of whether or not a player played for you or not. So those are conversations we always have.
Zach, was there ever any kind of conversation about having Andy be a backup for Joe this year, or were the financials and just everything involved just not conducive to making that happen?
We talked in depth about every situation that was imaginable, and ultimately we just came to the decision that we ended up making. But certainly everything was on the table with Andy, and that's what happens when you think highly enough of a player and you know that they can help you. You make sure you exhaust every decision before you make your final one.
I'm guessing those conversations occurred before free agency, correct?
Ben, that feels like 5 years ago, to be quite honest with you. So don't hold me to any timeline on that one, because that that feels like an eternity ago.
What did you learn from Andy? As you know, obviously you had him as a backup quarterback for 3 games. What did you learn about him during that time, and what kind of value did a veteran like that provide in that role as your number 2?
He was a professional about it, certainly, and wanted to play at the same time, though. So usually the ones that know that they can still play, they feel that way. And but again, I got nothing for respect with how he handled it. He would come at my office after mini games last year, and we'd talk, on Sunday nights, and so I appreciated my time with him.
I'm sure that was awkward, when you gave him that news, and then obviously you went with Ryan for 3 games. Did you learn anything from being a first-year head coach at the time from that experience?
I've learned so much from every experience I have, and it's you can only look to improve from the experience you've had in your past. You always make the decision you feel like is best for the team at that time, and then weeks later you make another decision, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. But I thought everybody handled it the right way, and I'm sure deep down there's a lot of things. Sometimes you learn things and you don't realize how much you learned until a similar situation arises that okay, well, I've been here before and I can draw from those experiences. And so sometimes you learn, you can't quite articulate what you learned until you're put in a similar situation, and then it kind of comes out.
Coach, when you work with a guy like Andy and then you watch him play on a Monday night game like that, do you find part of you is rooting for him, to do well, but the other part of you is making notes about what he's doing?
I don't really find myself rooting for anybody when I watch these games, and it's just we're watching the Dallas Cowboys because they're our opponent. We're watching the Ravens because they're a divisional opponent that we've seen before and we'll see again. And that's really all that's going through my mind when I'm watching that game.
How did you come up with a plan of how to take a Tuesday night game and work that in? Because obviously that's a new situation.
Yeah, personnel-wise, a lot of teams handle Baltimore's offense differently, and so you always have to factor it in when you're watching another team's defense play against Baltimore's offense because they're unique, and they've obviously done a great job. So, you got to start your plan with we've now got 10 games that are on tape for the season, so that gets you enough to really get going, and then you just add last night's game. We all watched it last night. We all watched it again this morning, and you can tweak your plan if there's anything you saw in that game that would affect that. But for the most part, we feel comfortable with where we're at.
Go ahead, Lap. Go ahead.
After taking a look at the tape that you looked at before last night's game, what was your determination? What do you think about Dallas defensively?
There's a lot of good players. It starts up front with them. I've played Dallas many times over the years, and it's always started up front. They've always had a front 4 that's really physical and they can rush the passer. And those 3 linebackers in particular, when you look at Sean Lee, got tremendous amount of respect for them. They played a lot of good football over the years and played at Pro Bowl levels. I know they're banged up at the secondary right now, but those guys are competing hard. So defensively, there's a lot of things that they've got some ability over there, and they've had some really good moments this year. And offensively, there's a lot of talent over there on offense. Those receivers, Andy's a veteran quarterback. Those guys up front are fighting their tails off, and the tight end's been playing well. And obviously they got Zeke and some good backs back there. So you see a lot of talent on the field when you watch their offense in particular.
2 more minutes with Coach.
Coach, if there's one thing you want to improve with the run game this week, obviously I think they're last in the league against the run. What do you need to do offensively to improve the run game after last week?
We got to be more efficient on early downs, and that's really – you look at our third downs by distance, first half, second half. That's one of the things that we got to improve on. And so just as the game goes, we got to be more consistent with the run game to put ourselves in better situations.
I was going to say quick turnarounds are nothing new because everybody plays Thursday games, but usually it's equal footing. In a situation like this where – one team has 58 hours more of prep time than the other. If the shoe was on the other foot, would you have a gripe?
The shoe's not on the other foot though, Jay. So I'm not going to complain about anything right now. But yeah, it is interesting. This situation does not arise very often. Tuesday night football, that's the new norm, I guess, in 2020.
And you compound that with they had 12 days. They played Thanksgiving, have a long time to prepare and play a game, and then like 4.5, 5 days. You go long, you go short. That's kind of a weird dynamic as well, isn't it?
it's weird, but we'll just control what we can control. We've been on 7-day patterns here for a while, and so we've had a normal flow of work week, and we'll be ready to go on Sunday.
One last question. Any more?
Okay, thank you.